Welcome to Sincerely Bhakti, episode 13. Today I will be discussing the power of vulnerability and sincerity on the spiritual path. Reading from Bhagavad-gītā as it is, commentary by Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, reading chapter 3, verse 2. At this point, Arjuna is speaking to Krishna, who is his teacher. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. My intelligence is bewildered by your equivocal instructions. Therefore, please tell me decisively which will be most beneficial for me. So in his commentary, Bhaktivedanta Swami says that this second chapter was a prelude to the entire Bhagavad-gītā. Bhaktivinoda Thakur also describes that second chapter as a summary of the Gita. Many different topics are touched on, such as Sankhya Yoga, Buddhi Yoga, controlling the senses, nature of the soul. There are a lot of topics in the second chapter. It's a very long chapter. So the problem is that it's a little disorganized. And Prabhupada says here that it's unsystematic. So Krishna has delivered so much information in this second chapter, but the problem is that Arjuna at this point is feeling bewildered. He uses this phrase mohayasi, which is translated as "you are bewildering me." And, when I read this, I found it very fascinating that Arjuna was willing to be so honest with his teacher. And who is his teacher? God himself is Arjuna's teacher, and he's expressing his confusion and bewilderment. So that's my first takeaway from this, is that as a sincere, vulnerable student, he is willing to express his confusion because he actually wants to know what to do. He's not just sitting there silently, receiving everything in, like nodding his head, yes, I understand. But at the end of the day, he's not understanding what to do. In fact, he's bewildered. So as an English teacher, this really struck home for me because, I could be delivering information on how to write an essay or how to analyze a reading passage, but if students were confused, how much value does my teaching have? It's not being received. If a student had a question, they were sincerely asking a question specifically on a particular topic, I was so excited as a teacher. I was like, yes, thank you for asking this question. You are totally bewildered. You have no idea what's going on with this particular point, but I'm so excited that you're asking your question and expressing your bewilderment, because then I can actually help you. So that's number one. That's my first takeaway, that the student is willing to be vulnerable and honest. And I was also struck by Arjuna as still being humble. He's not challenging his teacher or insulting the teacher or putting it all on the teacher's responsibility to be a good teacher. He is taking responsibility as a student. My second takeaway as a teacher was that presenting information in an organized fashion is very important for students. When I was teaching writing in middle school and high school, I always emphasized the importance of organizing, especially informational or argumentative essays. This is where you're presenting information, building an idea, building an argument. And for any reader or any student who's reading your work, they want to actually feel like logic is building here and I can understand what's being presented. Organization is important for the mind. It's important to feel like I understand the issue and the situation. Because ultimately, we need that organization so that we can make a decision. It's not about blindly making some decision on a whimsical emotion or an idea. We need knowledge presented systematically so that we can actually absorb what's being said. Prabhupada's saying here that Arjuna is asking these questions so that everybody who ultimately will hear the Gita can be benefited. He says here, in other words, by his questions, he is clearing the path of Krishna consciousness for all students who seriously want to understand the mystery of the Bhagavad-gītā. So in this way, although Arjuna is asking, please tell me decisively which will be most beneficial for me, it could seem like he's placing all the responsibility upon his teacher to tell him what to do. But actually, he's presenting his doubts about his confusion so that the organization of the information can be presented so that Arjuna can make his own decision of understanding what will be beneficial for him. So he's asking his teacher to organize the knowledge in such a way that he can understand clearly what will be most beneficial for him. The organization helps us to make a decision and not to be fed a decision. So ultimately, as a teacher presenting knowledge, it's allowing the student to own that decision and not just be told what to do in a blind follower kind of way. So I was thinking about these dynamics of a sincere student as well as a sincere teacher and how to present knowledge in such a way that can be understood by the student. And Prabhupada emphasizes here, Krishna in no way was, juggling his words to confuse Arjuna. He was just speaking this knowledge in such a way that maybe wasn't so organized for a soul like Arjuna to completely understand. So Arjuna puts a request forth and Krishna responds. And the rest of the Gita follows in such an organized fashion. I admire it many, many times for the way that a main idea is presented and supporting details are offered. Again, another idea, supporting details are offered. There's main sections. It's very organized. So in this way, any sincere seeker can actually approach the Gita and experience inspiration and guidance about how to grow in spiritual life. So, thank you for tuning in to episode 13, discussing the power of vulnerability and honesty as a student and the importance of feeling like I can actually digest the information that my teacher is presenting to me, and I need organization for that. Thank you, and I look forward to connecting in with you again soon. Hare Krishna.